It's bourbonblog.com live. We're coming to you live from Bourbon Blog headquarters here. Jason is joining us from Louisville as the founder of Buzzard's Roost Sippin whiskeys. And I've known Jason for quite some time. You will probably know him as one of the founders of Bourbon's Bistro, and you've seen him in the whiskey world. And then how long ago did you start this wonderful Buzzard's Roost brand? How long ago was it?
About 2 years. Well,
2 years ago.
Well, 3 years in the making, I guess. We hit the market July of 19.
July of 19. Well done. Sure. Been releasing some very unique whiskeys and the rise, and this is Roosted Chiquen. Now I'll have to say, what's the spelling of chicken is just a little different. There's a story behind all this. Is good. I just had my first sip because I was determined that I would have my first sip with you, Jason. What's the story behind this and the beer with Against the Grain? What do we have here?
Yeah, very good. Well, we everybody knows. Well, everybody doesn't know, but we've been working. Our whole deal is maturation, and we've been secondary barreling. So we've been working very closely with Independent Stave Company on developing barrels, almost like flavor profile barrels. Yes. So in conjunction with that, we decided to do a collaboration with Against the Grain. I love a lot of their beers that they put out. I love their whole concept. So what we did is we went down to Independent Stave and sat around and drank a bunch of different whiskeys and decided what barrel we could design that would go well with beer and whiskey, but not combine them. Okay. So a lot of people think, well, it's whiskey aged in a beer barrel. Some people think it's beer aged in a whiskey barrel, and that's not the case.
Neither of those.
Exactly. So what we did is we developed a barrel that would go well with whiskey and go well with beer. So what we've done is we developed one type of barrel. They took a brand new one. We took a brand new one. We aged whiskey in it. They aged beer in it. Then the collaboration is we come together and see how those flavors from one barrel played with beer and played with whiskey.
With that same type of barrel, you wanted to see what the influence was on both.
Definitely with the same
study. You're studying this in a way.
Exactly. I mean, and we're doing some experiments and different things like that, but it's definitely the flavor profile of the barrel which comes across in the beer and the whiskey. So we chose, and we always we're very transparent with what we do at Buzzard's Roost. So we did we picked a 2-year rye for this collaboration. And what we've done is, like I said, what we came up with was kind of a smoky vanilla barrel.
Yeah. That
we thought would work well with their beer. They enjoyed kind of what we brought to the table with the barrel, as well as, it's going to work well with our ryes that we picked. So we do 95.5 from MGP. Okay. This is only 2 years old, and it's also 105 proof. So that's
very good. And you're using now. Whose barrels are these that you're experimenting with?
Well, they're the ones that we've developed for Buzzard's Roost through Independent Stave Company.
Through Independent Stave. Okay, excellent. So Independent Stave, and of course we love what Independent Stave does. They helped you create these barrels, and this is some whiskey that you got that was 2 years old, and then you got these barrels, and you actually created this barrel.
We created the flavor profile in the barrel that the barrel is. So at Buzzard's Roost, we have, I guess we're going on about 10 different barrels that are different flavor profiles, just from the time that our wood is toasted, the time that it's charred. We work exclusively with number one char, and we also use a very, very heavy toast.
Yeah.
But, the only thing that is proprietary to us is how we develop our barrels at Independent Stave Company. Everything else we're very transparent about. Right now, we're getting all of our juice from MGP, even though we are out shopping for some bourbon, hopefully be on the market soon, and different things. But if you're familiar with our product, we're all about secondary aging, and it ages in our brand new, 53-gallon. We're not taking any shortcuts, and we're not breaking any rules. We're secondary aging them 53-gallon, heavily toasted #1 char barrels.
I like it. I like it a lot. And I tell you, whatever you've done, I know it's a little bit secretive. And please, as I see a lot of people popping on just now, please do take a moment to ask Jason questions, and also take a moment to share and like this video on your social. We love spreading the word of whiskey. But Jason, as I'm tasting this whatever you've done here with the magic of this barrel, this has some real depth of character. I know it's a little bit proprietary and secret, but what can you tell us about what you did with Independent Stave?
Well, like I said, we've been working with them. I've been working with them for over 3 years on developing different flavor profile barrels. It's similar to the Maker's 46 project, if you're familiar with that, to where they take individual staves that have been treated a little bit differently as far as, and so what we can do is through chemical analysis and spider graphs and bar graphs and all of these graphs that I've been studying, we can bring out extractives out of the wood, which comes at certain temperatures and certain time periods. Now those are proprietary. There's different types of heat that we use. But anyhow, when you look at, if you look at one of our experiments, or one of the experiments that we've done down at Independent Stave, there's a lot of lignin in oak,
right?
And at certain temperatures, lignin turns into vanillin, and vanillin is a big component in vanilla. So, to make a long story short, we toast it and cook it, and we cook the lignin until it turns into vanillin. And through chemical extraction, we know at certain time periods when the vanillin is really coming forth in that wood.
Wow.
So voila, we have a vanilla barrel. That's just for one example.
And just so people, that are watching this, I mean, I'm familiar with barrels, but the vanillin, these things you're talking about, what are these things? You cook the wood and certain things come out. How does that happen?
It's just like toasting a piece of bread. I mean, if you think about it, you've got a nice piece of good, whatever type of bread you do. When you toast that bread, the sugars come to the surface, and it's going to taste a little more smoky, a little more toasty, a little more sugary. But there's components that are in oak that come out when you put it through these heavy toasts. And so we use a #1 char exclusively. So it's easier for the liquid to get through to this heavy toast layer that we've done. So usually, when we rebarrel, it only sits in our barrel for maybe 6 weeks, depending on the weather and where it's stored. But usually it's about 6 to 8 weeks that this whiskey sits in our barrel, and it makes that big of a difference.
Excellent. And the Roosted Chiquen, where does the name come from then? What's the
Well, I think it's a play. We kind of let the Against the Grain guys run with that. They've always had fabulous marketing, and I think it's just a play on our Buzzard's Roost, and they're big chicken fans for some reason. I don't know where it comes from. I think they tried to explain it over a couple of beers and whiskey one night, and that's just what they came up with, the Roosted Chiquen, and our team signed off on it and thought it was fine. And it's a cool looking can. Yeah. They were actually supposed to be out there together, but I think because of COVID and what have you, that the packaging didn't. A lot of people don't know that they're supposed to go together. And if you want to go ahead and open that beer and taste a little bit of it,
I'm going to
the flavors that come over from the beer and the whiskey. It's remarkable.
All right, I'm going to pour this beer, and we're going to try them together here on Bourbon Blog Live. We love collaborations. If you have any favorite collaborations, tell us about them down below, and tell us if you've tried any of the Buzzard's Roost Sippin whiskeys. They are indeed Sippin whiskeys. Buzzard's Roost. They're not just whiskeys, they're Sippin whiskeys. Because why did you go with that name? I like the name, by the way. I think it's a great name.
You know, I've always hated rye. I've always hated rye. You know, I'm a bourbon guy from way back.
Absolutely.
So what we decided to come up with was a rye that you could really sit around and sip on. I mean, I've tried to do it. I've been through the whole whiskey gamut with scotches and Irish whiskeys, Canadian whiskeys, you name it. I've tasted them all. I just never could sit around and felt comfortable sipping on a rye whiskey.
Right.
But, you know, ours are very high in rye. They're 95.5, and that's all we're dealing with. And what I really wanted to come up with was, after seeing this research and things at Independent Stave, I wanted to develop a bourbon drinker's rye, basically.
Yes.
I wanted those soft tones from the vanillas and the caramels and the butterscotch coming from this rye, which is usually kind of grassy, a little bit grainy, somewhat minty. You know, the ryes still have that kind of that stay power. So they're good with a cocktail, but they're also, you can actually sit around. They'll stand up to a cocktail, but they're also, I think they're great for just sitting around, maybe put a cube of ice in it or not, and sit around and sip on it. So that's going to be that's always been my style of whiskey, is something I could sit around and sip on, whether it be neat or with a cube of ice. But I've always been kind of a sipper, you know.
Okay, so no, I think it's amazing. And what you've done with the rye, the small batch, the single barrel, we're going to get to the toasted here in a moment, but the ryes are so unique. You've really have taken that bourbon mentality and approach to the Buzzard's Roost Sippin whiskeys. Okay, so I'm tasting both of these, and I think that maybe, you know, sometimes, and I know you host tastings too quite often there, Jason, and one thing that I usually recommend people do is they kind of, you know, go back and forth, nose it. Of course, you can nose beers too. I probably should have probably more of a nosing beer glass, but you know, I really immediately got on that beer some of those nice sweet flavors, the aromatics, the vanillas. I mean, there really is some real magic in both of these, and I can see how the wood has done that. I mean, this is really interesting.
It was a great collaboration to do, and I don't know that there's a whole lot of collaborations on the market out there like this. They either use a whiskey barrel, or the whiskey will use a beer barrel, or what have you. They'll combine the barrels, but these are two brand new barrels, completely separate. Just the wood is showing both the flavors, and I think that's cool to drink them side by side and see what the same barrel will do for each different spirit.
Yeah, it's that. So in this beer, I mean, okay, so what we're looking at on the beer side, and again, we really love what Against the Grain does there in Louisville. This is an amber lager aged on toasted oak. So how do they age it on toasted oak? Are they just putting it in the barrel for a little while? Or how's the barrel influence happening?
Well, actually, what we call it is they have a barrel that is treated just like our whiskey barrel, but what happens is we chop it up. It's called Wood Alternatives.
Right.
And it's the same wood, it's the same barrel. But it's shredded up because the way they age their beer. I don't know if you've ever seen anything on Budweiser, how they say it's beechwood age.
Right.
Shavings of beechwood in these big vats of beer. And it's kind of the same principle. What they've done is they've taken shavings from this barrel and aged it in their beer.
some good wood shavings from the actual barrel itself. So,
Right.
So you use the wood for the whiskey. Now, is that now with that same barrel? Is that a new barrel that you're chopping up and putting in the beer, or
Like
is it used with the whiskey?
It's two separate brand new barrels.
Two separate brand new barrels. So it hasn't seen the whiskey. It's just the barrel for the beer has just seen
the treatment.
Yeah,
the toast. It's called a brewer's toast.
Brewer's toast.
A brewer's toast.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. So the brewers actually kind of came up with what kind of tones they wanted to use. Then we said that would work with this particular whiskey.
I love the experiments, though. I think the experiments are so much fun, and I'm just imagining you and the brewery team in there chomping the barrel up and with an axe as you're drinking whiskey. Is that what you did? Did you just take an axe and start chomping it up?
We did it. I wanted to do that, but we did it a little more professionally than that. Just so the size of the wood, it was all a big process. But what a fun process, and I think that it was such a success that we're going to do it again. And
so good.
I don't know where it's going to go from here, but it's fun, and it just shows you what the wood can do to each different product.
No, it really does. The beer does have those beautiful vanillas. It has this great caramel. I mean, it really, in some ways, though I know the whiskey never saw the beer, when you think about beers that have been aged on wood for the whiskey, you think about that whiskey influence. It feels sort of like, and maybe it's just because I had the whiskey, that whiskey comes through on the beer. Do you notice that too?
Well, it's the whiskey flavors, I think, that come through on the beer.
Right.
It's the vanilla and the smoke.
Right.
And so that's why they work so well together.
It is it's very good. Again, Against the Grain, Buzzard's Roost, the Sippin whiskeys. It's the collaboration we're talking about here. If you have any questions, it's a cool bottle. Are there any of these left in Louisville? Can we find these if we look around? Or there?
Yeah, definitely. There are plenty of. I think the beer is been exhausted. Maybe you can still find some at Against the Grain.
Okay.
We're still. I think there was some left in the warehouse, but we have maybe 100 bottles of that left. Maybe.
Nice. It's really good.
Yeah, it's been selling like crazy. So it went well for the holidays, and a lot of people are just digging the whiskey by itself.
Yeah, it's very unique. We have an article up about the new whiskey releases there on Bourbon Blog, and also just to remind everybody, you're watching Bourbon Blog Live wherever you're watching it from: Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, and of course, a little bit later after this is over, we will have the audio of this uploaded to our podcast, which we're growing new podcasts every day. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast channel too to keep on listening to whiskey as well as watching it here. So this is so good. So you have these two. Let's see here. We do have some questions. What are the questions from Courtney? What is your favorite Buzzards release to date? Your favorite one?
Oh, I don't know. It's probably one of the single barrels, or the toasted is really close to my heart.
Yeah, the toast, and we're going to try that one next. But I'll tell you that the nice thing about this is when I taste the beer, it's like I want to go back to that whiskey and I want to get those notes, and I do get those notes. How long was this finished in the new barrel? Then how long was it finished?
It was right at 6 weeks.
Okay, so I mean, it really wasn't. Well, I guess with the new barrel, often there's so much happening there. You don't need but a month or a month and a half or so, do you?
Yeah, but you think about a 2-year 95.5 rye.
Right.
It's going to be pretty harsh, especially at 105 proof.
Yeah.
Well, you would think that it'd be, just almost unpalatable. But
yeah.
I think it's really turned into
older.
It's really turned into something beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, you've at least, as far as the flavor, you've done some just really brilliant out of the box things with. But if I was guessing the age on this, I would guess it way above a couple of years. I mean, this tastes a lot older.
And that's what's cool with us being a new company, working with some younger stuff and having the results that we've had. I think we've talked about we won a gold medal in San Francisco this year for our single barrel. So coming out of the blocks and winning a gold medal in San Francisco, we were really proud about that. And I think that, just working with younger stuff right now, it's really exciting, but to think that we might get into some older whiskeys and see what we can do with that is really cool, looking for the future.
Oh, it really is. And it just makes me think, back when you started Bourbon's Bistro there, 2005, right?
Right. Yes.
Because I remember I was there for your 1-year anniversary, and we had that was like one of the first times I hung out with you. We had a great time that night. But back 15, 16 years ago, when you would think about back then rye whiskeys or any whiskey that was 2 years old, nobody was really, doing anything for the advanced maturation. We've come a long way. Can you imagine? I could have never imagined this sort of thing back then. And what do you think that says about all this?
Like I always say back, when you're talking 15, 16 years ago, I always say we were doing bourbon before it was cool.
Yeah.
And, I just kind of ask people that are into the bourbon game now, that's what that's why we're in it, because we want more people in it. We've always, one of our first t-shirts said, bringing bourbon back one sip at a time. So I always thought it was undermarketed, and what a great product. And now you see today how many blogs there are, how many whiskey bars there are, bourbon bars. It's just gone up tenfold. But I always ask people, what were you doing 15 years ago? They certainly weren't into bourbon, or if they were, it was on a very, very minor scale. So I think going from that and seeing where whiskey's gone today it's phenomenal. And we love spreading the word. We've always loved spreading the word, as you have as well for your career, so what a great time to be in whiskey. I know we've been through a tough year and whatever, but I still think the best is yet to come. And like I said, what a great time to be in the whiskey business.
Yeah, and what you've done is phenomenal with Buzzard's Roost, and the fact that you've embraced rise, and really you've done a study of what the influence is on the whiskey. So many companies and so many good companies will do interesting whiskeys, but you've really gone a step further, and you want to really explore those barrels. You want to study them. You're doing that again also in this toasted barrel. I'm going to pour a little of this. I have another glass here. Buzzard's Roost toasted barrel. Is this a limited edition? Is this one we'll just see one time every year?
We're probably this is going to be a yearly thing. It's going to be kind of a limited release, but we'll probably always release this in the fall. Yeah. And however long it lasts, that's how long it lasts. I don't think we're going to do a re-release in the spring. We're going to wait until the fall to do another toasted barrel. I feel that the toasted goes well with that season, and just the cocktails of the season and everything about it.
So immediately this nose.
Go ahead.
No, sorry. Just say this nose is mind blowing. I always wait until I'm just about to talk to somebody and to do it in real time, because just nosing this, there's this autumnal, there's like there's this maple syrup against autumnal notes. This is an amazing. I haven't even sipped it yet. This nose is amazing.
No, you could sip that for probably 15 minutes and it'll open up as well. It'll get better as it opens up.
Yeah. That's good. So what is this? What is the toasted barrel?
Well, that's exactly what it is. We have done a heavy toast. So this has zero char, which is a new thing for us. And there's some toasted out on the market. It's starting to get some play, but it is not a charred barrel. We do a certain amount of time and a certain amount of heat on our toast, and we feel it's a little bit longer than everybody else. It's going to bring these certain extractives to the front of the wood, and once again, that'll sit in our barrel for about this is more like 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the weather.
And is this roughly the same sort of recipe we tried before?
Yeah, it's a 95.5. which is, like I said, a hugely high rye for the market as well. Yeah. And this is 3 years and some change. Older. Yeah, a little older. 3 years and some change, and that's going to come in at 105 proof as well.
This is so nice. So this toasted, 3 years old in the primary barrel, goes into is it the secondary barrel? It's the toasted barrel.
That's correct.
Yeah. So but again,
it's MGP rye, but I feel we kind of.
This is lovely.
We're getting in our wheelhouse with the MGP rye too, is finding out which barrels work with our barrels. We do somewhat pick and choose a little bit over there. It's nice to be able to buy a lot of barrels and to work with them. Right. But we have, like I said, it's about right at 9 or 10 barrels that we have proprietary to us that we've developed from independent staves. So we also do some blending, not with this product, but we do some blending. Once they age in our barrels, we'll take this kind of plethora of different ryes that we've used in different barrels and blend those together and come out with what we do. So
this is very well done. So the toast, now, just as there are different char levels, of course, are there different toast levels? Explain that a little bit.
There are different toast levels, but I don't know that they are categorized kind of like a 1, 2, 3, 4. They may have those. The guys at Independent Stave may tell me something different on that, but I haven't heard, like, we don't use a number 5 toast. Right. For example, we just use a heavy toast. It's definitely heavily toasted for a certain period of time under certain heat, and that brings the extractives out of the wood.
Yes, and the folks at Independent Stave are very talented there. We appreciate that team a lot. Just really, I'm sure the experience of exploring and going about that, and that's what the bottle looks like there. That is the toasted barrel, so be watching for that. And again, Kentucky, where can people find your whiskeys? Where can they find it?
Well, we're opening new accounts all the time. We're definitely in the big guys. We're in Liquor Barn. We're in Total Wine. I think we're in some select Krogers.
Yep.
And then a lot of the smaller guys who we love those guys. I love the small independent guys as well as the big guys here. But, when you're trying to get your product out there, they all are important to us. Every account is very important to us because, people get their whiskey from different spots, and right. We're just happy to be in the accounts we're in. We're looking to break into several states this year. So we're actually doing a ramping up project for 2021. We should be in maybe 6 to 7 states, hopefully by the end of the year. We're hoping in 3 states by the first quarter. We'll see. We're still kind of reeling with what the COVID's done to us. I can't get out and do any tastings, which I'd love to do.
I understand.
It's just putting the boots on the ground and really putting the product in people's hands. I think that once you get a taste of it, a lot of people that we've, especially, whiskey bloggers like you, everybody's pleasantly surprised with the product we're putting out. Excellent.
Again, it's buzzardsroostwhiskey.com. That is the place to go to learn more about what they do, where to find their products. We may even be seeing, as Jason was mentioning, their whiskey in more states. Any idea what those first states will be for 2000?
That is not up to me. It's up to kind of the legal team and the permitting team. But we'd love to be in Chicago, St. Louis. We're looking north a little bit, maybe up to New York, and we love Tennessee and New Orleans. So I don't know. Sure. We'll see what happens. We're working on getting out there and making the product to supply the markets. So
Yes, these are both so interesting. I mean, when you think about how you have transformed these and what you've done, and really just it started off with just your experience in the whiskey business. You have always with Bourbon's Bistro just picked an incredible single barrels. You know how to pick the barrels, and then you took that, you applied that to this whole passion for a bourbon lover's rye, and then it's really grown. It's been amazing.
Yeah, it's been a fun 15, 16, 20 years so far, Tom, and just kind of looking forward to the future with the brand. And just my love of whiskey it's always going to be there. And I mean, it's really exciting, especially when I used to pick my single barrels and still do over there at Bourbon's Bistro. It's like they would sell so well. And it's just like, man, what a great pick. It's like, it's almost like splitting hairs. There's not much bad whiskey out there. It's just finding those really, really good barrels and kind of sorting through them that really makes it fun and fun for your customers as well.
Yes. These are, as I try these back and forth too. At first, I was trying the Roosted Chiquen and the Roosted Chicken beer, and now I'm going back and forth between the whiskeys. There's such a difference. I mean, there's so many different elements. Like that toasted is so autumnal. That's again that maple off the nose. Mm-hmm. Where's that maple coming from? Do you get that too? That maple sort of. What's the?
Well, like I said, you'd be surprised when you look at a spider graph of what elements come out of the wood at certain temperatures at certain time periods. It's really cool, and like I said, I've learned a lot over the last 3 years, and it's I mean it's taken a whiskey geek and turning them into a wood geek,
right?
Because I've just learned so much about wood in the last, and we've all talked about this, that 80%, 70 to 80% of the flavor of bourbon comes from the wood. So Independent Stave having their research department and starting there, it's like it's all basically rye and corn and barley and what have you, but it really comes into the maturation part of it, to where it is an art and it is a science. I mean, you have to address the science because it's there. And for years, I think we, somewhat overlooked it because, that's what we did, a number 4 char, and you had your grain bill and you got your grains from here and there. And yeast is always a big thing, but it's basically somewhat the same ingredients, and it's that magic maturation of where it comes from. Of, a lot of the distillers talk about, well, Blanton's or Elmer T. Lee came from a certain point in the warehouse. Well, so that got me to thinking, this maturation's got something to do with it. And definitely hooking up with Independent Stave has been a godsend. So,
yeah. And so just as you think about the different places in the warehouse, the wood, the type of barrel, that's very important too, more than probably is what is known.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, like I said, it was always number 3, number 4 char for 200 years, right. or since Prohibition. Let's just say since Prohibition. But that's what they were doing back in the day. They were charring the barrels anyway. So
these are really delicious. And I just really that nose on that toasted, how it comes at you, and just the flavor, the depth of that. Again, this is what proof is the toasted at again?
It's 105.
105. And then the first one I had was the proof.
They're both 105. Yeah.
They're both 105. Same proof.
Yeah.
Different barrels, little different age.
We found 105 is kind of our wheelhouse. Like I said, you can still make some decent, like crazy cocktails out of these. Even though, I've never been a huge cocktail person, but these can stand up to anything you want to put on them, and the flavors play well depending on if you find a good mixologist. For sure, they can do some good stuff with this. So 105 is our minimum. I don't think we'll ever go any lower than 105. We do have our barrel strength out. I don't know if you've tried that one. I think we may have sent you a sample, but we are anywhere from 113 to 115. and just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, the proof is amazing, and while it is warm, it drinks a little lower than 105. It definitely has good proof, but on both of these, I probably wouldn't have guessed it 105.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that makes it more? It's warm, but it also has this beautiful elegance to it.
I've always loved those sneaky high proof whiskeys because, the proof is where the flavor is, the proof in the pudding, whatever. And maybe not necessarily back in the 50s and 60s that was the case, but today I think for the most part you need proof to get to that flavor. And I love mine to where you're getting the flavor, but not that kick, not burn your ass from the proof, So that's
I understand.
I've always loved those sneaky ones that have a full palate flavor.
Yeah.
Front, middle, back. And you're just going to get that whole gamut of flavors going on, and really not so much the burn of the proof.
Yeah. Both of these are so interesting. What you said, cocktail wise, I was thinking that same thing. I mean, what would you do cocktail wise with these, or what have you seen done? Have you seen anything interesting done with these?
We've done all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, a smoked Manhattan with the toasted is sick. I've got onto some paper planes this summer, which you have to ask somebody else what a paper plane is.
With the other one, with the roosted.
But it works well with the roosted, and it works well with the toasted. So it kind of gives you two different planes, but it's really a couple of cool drinks there, and we open up to see we've kind of had a little contest about people doing different recipes with Buzzard's Roost. So, we're still a young company and we're growing by leaps and bounds. So we will see. This year should be very big for us as far as, like I said, we're trying to add a cocktail program. We're expanding our website and expanding our reach, hopefully, in, like I said, several different states. But with people like you, I mean, there's a big national, there's some national interest in Buzzard's Roost, and we're getting a lot of good feedback from other states. People that have come by Kentucky and picked up a bottle or so.
They're loving it. I can imagine. I can see this really. This is really going to grow for you. And again, people that are interested in the whiskey, buzzardsroostwhiskey.com is the place to go. There still are, as Jason was telling us, some bottles of the Roosted Chiquen out there you might find. And again, the wonderful Against the Grain Roosted Chiquen Sippin beer, and be looking for that toasted barrel, which you say might be, you might see it might be an annual release.
That will be an annual release.
Okay.
The Roosted Chiquen is gone away for now, but we will do another collaboration, which will be a different collaboration. So, the kind of the future's out there for us to. This is really cool that how we're experimenting with different flavor profiles coming from these barrels. So there's going to be a lot of different stuff on the future for us. We've got I can't talk about it now, but we've got a few that are in the pipeline that are really going to be cool coming out this spring.
Nice.
But so right now you're always going to be able to see the small batch and the single barrel on the shelves, always.
Small batch and single will always be there. The full proof will be there. Some maybe
the full proof. We're kind of dancing around that with the toasted right now. I think the full proof will be a full-time thing, but it'll always be different. It'll range anywhere from 110 to probably 120.
Right.
But that there'll be different expressions of that all the time. Hopefully coming soon. And but the toasted will be usually a fall release. And like I said, we've got a few more things we're fooling with. We're talking about some bourbon, and we're actually doing with Kentucky Artisan Distillery. If you're familiar with that, the Jefferson's comes out of there. We're going to be probably putting down some new make of our own very soon. So, and that's going to be bourbon. So I'm looking forward to putting some of my own bourbon down. But this has been fun, and we'll continue to do this. We'll continue to build the brand, and we'll just add another feather on our cap. We really want to do it right when we do this bourbon, and it's going to be pretty cool.
Nice. So we'll be seeing probably at some point some bourbon from you. For now, it's the Rise, but at some point we'll see the bourbon, and you're working on that with Kentucky Artisan.
Right, and we may source some bourbon. They're trying to sway me to that side. We may source some bourbon, but we'll see. If it will, I think we're gonna fool with I don't know. We're gonna look at some bourbon this spring, but we're also looking forward to putting in some of our own stuff down. But we're gonna source some bourbon as well.
Well, these are all amazing, and again, for anyone that has had it, or they can find both the beer and the whiskey together, this is a great combination to try to really understand what a barrel does. I think you've done a great job, Jason, on with Independent Stave on showing how that barrel can really affect the flavor on two unique beverages, beer and whiskey, and how those flavors can carry forward. It's something, as far as an experiment, that I've really never seen done before. This is an amazing experiment you've done, and something that I think really helps people to understand the power of the barrel.
Yeah, like I said, I think a lot of people have done secondary aging with a whiskey barrel and a beer barrel, but this is, two brand new barrels that really bring the flavors together, and that's what we thought would work, and I think it worked out pretty well.
Excellent. A lot of fans here watching. Sam J. Cruz loves that.
There he is.
roosted chicken, and a lot of other people. Frank, thanks for watching. Any place people can buy these to have them shipped elsewhere? Are there any places online that are doing that?
I'm not really sure. I know Sam and them might still have some of the beer left over there with those guys.
Yep.
Right. I just wanted to mention with Sam about sitting around drinking the roosted chicken and the beer. The one day we did a blog with it, and it was heaven. I thought they went well together, and we sat there and probably had more than we should have.
Well, that's the way the best things happen, as we know. And Sam, we're so glad you're watching there, and we appreciate everything the Against the Grain friends do there, and it's great. This beer and the whiskey are amazing. And thanks, Jason, for joining us. You'll have some more experiments coming soon, it sounds like. By spring, you're going to have a few new things.
Yeah, very good. Hopefully, we're going to do another thing with Against the Grain, and we'll go from there. It's going to be a good thing.
All right. Sam's telling us that we have some at Against the Grain Brewery and Public House. So there is some of the beer left, so you'll get a chance to try that. Hopefully, if you get through Louisville, you can try that. And Jason, man, great to see you. This was wonderful having a nice little sip and taste with you. And if you did join us, you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, make sure you follow us, subscribe to wherever you're watching that. And again, if you're a podcast fan, make sure you log onto our podcast, which I've linked there below so that you can listen to this episode as well. Jason, as always, my friend, keep up the great work in the world of whiskey. This is delicious stuff.
Tom, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me, and cheers. Next time you're in town, let's get together.
We'll do it, man. Cheers. Thank you.
All right.
Cheers.